Well, we're all concerned about the destruction and the depredation that's happening in the Amazon basin, and this is a world issue. It's not just a South American problem, because the destruction of the Amazon is directly related to the equilibrium about world climate and the climate of the planet. And as well as that, we are now aware that up to 25% of the Amazon has now been destroyed. So if the rate of destruction and depredation of the rainforest continues to happen at the accelerated rate that has been going on up to now, we're in serious problems in relation to climate change and the climate of the planet. As well as the destruction of the rainforest, we are very concerned as well about the way that the tiny groups of indigenous peoples who have inhabited the area for millennia are now being destroyed by the onslaught of the extractive industries and the way that they're operating, particularly in relation to oil exploration, mining industries for precious metals, and the creation of agribusiness, which comes about by literally the grabbing of the lands of the indigenous peoples and using them for agribusiness, where the big crops are African palm oil and soya. So all these things go to make us aware of the level of destruction that's happening and the relationship between what Pope Francis calls the social and economic crisis that we have been speaking about for many years now, whose main victims are the poor of the earth, the excluded, the people whose rights are destroyed. And we have to link this to what we call the ecological question, the environmental question, and really relate them, because the cause of ecological destruction is rooted in the economic and the dominance of the techno-economic model of development and progress that's in vogue for many years now. So we have to think in a new way to train ourselves to integrate the economic, social crisis and the other one that's ecological, and not to keep speaking about them as two different things, separated. But as Pope Francis says in number 139 of Laudato Si, we now have to speak about one overall crisis, where the two aspects are integrated, brought together, joined together. And this means that we have to think in a new way. We have to use new thought patterns. And this involves our way of understanding, seeing the world, but it also impinges on the whole academic world. We're now at a point where our training, our education, our universities are super advanced in relation to specialization. But that brings us to a stage where knowledge itself, science, is fragmented. And we're in a situation where engineers cannot speak to doctors, where teachers can't speak to scientists. Now, this is wrong. We have to integrate knowledge, overcome the fragmentation. We've got to understand as well that where indigenous people live from time immemorial, with a real relationship to the rainforest, where they have from time immemorial been able to live in harmony with the river, with water, with the fish, with the air, with the birds, with the trees, with the seasons, is now being utterly destroyed. So these are situations in relation to indigenous peoples that have to be, first upon all, valued. And very important issues are at stake here. Their sense of the sacred. They are symbolic peoples, sacramental peoples. Their way of relating and their connectedness to creation, to the natural order, is of great importance. And there's a huge message here for all of us in the West that have lost this relationship of harmony and peace with the environment because of and through the period known as the Industrial Revolution. Not forgetting all the good things that have come out of the whole experience of illustration and modernity. But we're now paying the cost on the negative side in relation to the destruction of the environment. So see, these are some of the main issues that we've been dealing with in this conference, and particularly the interrelatedness, which is a great theme of Francis, of all things, of all creation. This is the spiritual root that goes way beyond just our own religious Judeo-Christian tradition. We're trying to reach out and listen to the same insight that's the basis of all the spirituality of the great world traditions, whether religious or secular, anthropological. It's the common bondedness of our humanity in the world of today and of our way of understanding ourselves in relation to the future. We've recently launched a new platform in the Latin American Church precisely to address this issue about the destruction of the Amazon. And we feel as a Catholic Church that we need to offer our contribution in a creative and an effective way that's going to mean something and is also going to be a catalyst for change and for to help in the life of the Amazon and against the forces of destruction. The name of it is REPAM. The initials are Red Eclesial Panamasonica. In English, it would be the Church Network for the Pan-Amazon. And it consists of all the main organizations of the Catholic Church: bishops, religious people, lay people, organizations, where we've been able to form a real integration and unity to go forward and build the platform, keeping in mind that the reference points and the protagonists are the indigenous peoples of the Amazon and the territorial missionaries that work with them. The Catholic Church offers us the possibility to network from the territory to national levels of organization within the church, bishops' conferences, and outside of the church as well, with political representation in native state governments, and on the international level with organizations like the United Nations, the Organization of American States, that are particularly important, and where the indigenous people of the Amazons can have a voice. Obviously, within this as well, the Catholic Church, led by Pope Francis at this level, is a key component of REPAM and has identified himself with the founding and growth of it to date. We have 6 working groups. Probably the most well-known would be the one in relation to human rights. In April of last year, 2016, we began a new school educational experience for Amazonic indigenous leaders, where we were able to get together the participation of 13 representing the groups who are particularly the flashpoints involved in conflict, where there's been loss of life, loss of territory, ongoing conflict for a number of years. And it was an occasion to get these people together and to afford them the opportunity to learn and to reflect in a more systematic way what they've been dealing with up to the present, with lawyers, anthropologists, educators who have given their time ad honorem. The last module in this new experience of Indigenous rights took place in February of this year, February and March, both in Washington and in New York. And we felt that it was a really important opportunity that we were able to airlift through the help of CAFOD and other support groups, these leaders, so that they could participate in an official public audience in the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights in Washington and in the Forum for Indigenous Peoples in the United Nations in New York. And there they were able to say officially what's happening to them, how they see the abuse of their rights, their territories. It was a tremendous occasion and a wonderful step forward politically. So it's an integration of evangelization, spirituality, and political action to bring about the basis of Indigenous peoples who are the poorest on earth, the most exploited, the most excluded, to come into being from their previous situation as non-persons in the eyes of the power groups of the world, and to be able to have an effective voice in relation to their dramatic situation that they are involved in. Finally, a good point to remember is that recently Pope Francis has taken the decision to visit Peru and the Amazon of Peru in January of next year, 2018. And the part of the Amazon that is going there is called Madre de Dios, on the frontier with Brazil. It's a place where all the issues come together. The destruction of the rainforest, the abuse of indigenous people, illegal mining, child labor in mining, trafficking, human trafficking, enforced slavery with issues like child prostitution involved. So all these issues altogether, also the situation as regards indigenous people who have declared themselves in voluntary isolation, who just don't want and refuse to have any contact with outside groups. These are realities that are real and that deserve to be known and part of our awareness, and it will be very important to see what the Pope, what Francis has to say, and what he will do there. And the eyes of the world will be surely pointed in that direction.